that's how bad I was. But it was, you know, whether you had quote unquote good hair or, you know, very, very tight curl pattern, the women just wore their hair natural. My mother-in-law was a minister, and she was a minister, I know, for 20, 30 years. And all I know is she rocked a fro. Okay. That's all I know. And it just, and growing up, I remember just seeing her, I just used to think to myself, boy, that's a profound woman. You know, it's just like she stood taller. It's just what she was, just shined. And I think, like she was saying, and you were saying, it's like other women, they take it personal. And my mother, she said to me, she said, I don't know what your hair look like natural. And I said, well, it looked like my hair, you know, when you was pressing it. If you want to say it's nappy, it's tight curls, whatever. It's the fro, but, you know, I have learned to embrace it, and I feel like anybody else that can't, that's just too bad. You know, I just feel like, I mean, you walk down the street, you see women in clothes that you feel like they might not should be wearing. Yeah. You don't speak openly and say, sweetie, you shouldn't wear that. You know, it's not personal.
You know, that's society, and we as a people, if we learn to accept people for who they are and their choices, then we would be a much stronger society. But that's what it is, and I find that in our race, actually, that we tear one another down ourselves. We don't accept one another for who we are, and just, you know, just portray that genuine feeling toward one another. And that's something that we have to overcome.
Don't you think that the world is changing? Black women, black girls, we have much more opportunities open to us. So why are we teaching our daughters to, you can be whatever you want to be. Go get the you got to have I mean, to me, that's a double standard. We're trying to build confidence in our young women, but at the same time say, well, no, you got to look a certain way. No. Build their confidence with that.
And I think a lot
of present the whole package.
And I'm actually going to touch on that in a second. I kind of want to go back to profession real quick, because you talked about, was it your mother-in-law? Who's a minister? We talked about Michelle Obama.
She's an administrator.
Administrator.
She's a minister and an administrator.
And an administrator. Okay, so we got.
Can
yeah.
repeat what you said about Michelle Obama? I missed that.
Yeah, I was saying that we've got a minister, we've got an administrator, we've got Michelle Obama. So we're talking about different professions.
Okay.
Do you think that it matters? Your professional level of your hair is based on what your profession is, like how an author can get away. I was talking to Nicole. How an author can get away with wearing her hair any kind of way. Okay, but if you're an administrator of a hospital, you might not think that you can get away with that. Or Michelle Obama, because she's a president's wife, she's in the White House. Or as a hairstylist, you can do what you want, but as a nurse, I might be looked at a little differently. Do you guys think that your profession really does play that big of a role, or do you still think that it's more personal within that person on what is professional?
Unfortunately, it does. I believe that it does play that role. Yeah. It's unfortunate, especially if you're in corporate America, because they haven't gotten around to, your immediate co-workers will accept you, but the people above them, they're like, what's with that hair, you know? And they find it, I still think they're finding it a little hard to accept a strong black woman in the corporate world who chooses the way she wears her hair.
You know something that broke my heart when I watched Good Hair, the Chris Rock documentary? Have you guys seen that?
Yeah, I've seen it.
There's a part in it where he was talking to some high school girls about their hair and how they wore it and what is and what's acceptable or something like that. And there were some young girls with their hair straight, and there was this one girl with a cute little afro. And this one girl said, well, I don't know if I would hire you, you know, because you're wearing an afro, and that's not professional. And I sat there, and, you know, I was like, wow. You know, just because she's wearing an afro automatically meant that, and these are girls in high school. They're not even in corporate America yet, so they've come up with that mentality, you know, and so it goes back to what you guys were saying about how are we teaching our young ladies what's acceptable, what's appropriate, what is healthy, what's beautiful. It all goes back to, and I mean, this goes back to a lot of things, but how you're brought up when you're young, and when you start having your own awakening if you were not brought up in that fashion. So I've got a picture of Busta Rhymes here when he had his dreads, talking about does your profession matter? You know, what's appropriate and what's not, because it's a crazy picture of Busta Rhymes. But for him, he's a rapper. You know, that was okay. You know, but when we're thinking about what's appropriate, it's unfortunate that it does matter what your profession is and how people look at you, but just more to think about. So this is where I wanted to start talking about confidence, because I really think that your level of number one, you've got to be confident to be a natural, period. Because as soon as you cut it off, you're going to be getting things from left and right. And that's why I got so angry when that person made that statement to my sister, because she was trying, she was trying to say, I'm going to do it, I'm going to be natural. I said, okay. And the first day she walked out the house with that stuff, someone came at her and told her how ugly it was. And I wanted to go tackle them. You know, I'm trying to be all nice and composed and everything, but you messing with my family and you telling them she's ugly. And so her confidence, I mean, it wasn't that high to begin with. But as soon as they told her that, and you know, all the other white people told her, oh, it's pretty, it's this, can I touch it, can I do that? But that one black, for that one sister that told her that.
I think with sisters, some of the sisters that do that, I think they're jealous.
They are.
I think they're jealous. Like, out deep inside, they like, tell me how I could do that. Like, what role do I take to get where you are? Like, you know, and still be accepted. But then you turn around and you want to be a negative. Stop being negative and just say, hey.
Ask for help.
Yeah, ask for help. Stop being negative.
Feel confident.
Yeah, and that's what I was telling her. I said, you know, when you're wearing your hair natural, you got one of two options. You can either walk in a room and be very timid and kind of look around, or you can walk in with your head held up and like, what?
That's right, own it.
Those are your only two options as being a natural. You either own the room when you walk in, and that way everyone that sees you is going to be like, you know what, okay, she's all right. She's okay with herself. You know, if you walk in and you're not quite sure, then other people are going to be more likely to say, well, why are you doing that, or what are you doing? They're probably going to say that anyway. Well, let me just tell you guys this. If you walk into your school with your head up, looking at people like, yeah, I'm rocking this. My little fro? Yeah, this is cute. Doesn't even matter what anybody says, because deep within inside of you, you're confident enough and you know what's going on. And you know that that hair is an extension of you. That hair is who you are, and it's beautiful. You know, and so that's what we got to get around to. And yeah, and it's just hair. You cut it off, it goes back the next day.
Can I add this?
Yeah.
I have this thought. I'm trying to see how to put it. I don't want us with natural hair to put down those sisters who have straight hair, who decide to stay straight though. You know, I know we have our hang-ups about our hair, but I don't want it like, well, you know, thinking that we're better than them because they have the straight hair. I thank the Lord that we have choices that we can, with our hair. I mean, you know, we can go natural, we can go straight, and so it's a choice.
I'm pretty sure anybody in here that is natural, just like yourself, if there was a woman with straight hair and she said, hey, how did you do that? I'm pretty sure you'd be willing to help her instead of saying, oh, girl, this you don't want to do this because I had to wait a whole year for it to grow out. I still got to wait, and it's all hard, and I don't know how to moisturize it. You know, that's not what you're trying to get. And I think as natural, like you said, it's more spiritual. You are so just pure within yourself, or trying to get pure within yourself, and you're starting with your hair. So I think we want to help each other. You know?
And then also we want to recognize that within those different shades of color are different hair textures. Some people are naturally straight.
Natural.
Some people are naturally curly. So natural is what's natural to you. Natural is how you came out. Okay? It's more than just a mindset. It's more than being natural or being, you know, twisted or whatever. Natural is however you came out of the womb.
That's it.
That's how God intended for you to be. Now, if you choose to do something else, we've been talking about that all day. You got a choice. You know, but I just think it's interesting that when we choose to be how we are, that's when all the fun and games begin. Because we start seeing how we're really seen. So, okay, as far as what's appropriate, this is what I'm just